Hello, so continuing on weekly contest 341, the second problem is find the maximum divisibility score. So we have an array of numbers, nums, and we have divisors. And basically we have this thing called divisibility score of one divisor, which is basically the number of elements in the numbers array that are divisible by this number. And so given that divisors array, we want to return the divisor that has the maximum divisibility score. And if we have two of them, we want to return the smallest one. So what does that mean? Let's say here we have these divisors, and then we have these numbers. So 5, there is no divisor, so it's a 0. 2, 2 can divide 4, and that's it, right? It just has one divisor. Divides just one number, right? 3 divides 9 here, and divides this 9, and divides this 3 as well. So it has 3. It can divide 3 numbers. And so that's the highest one, and so we want to return the element itself, 3. So that's the idea of the problem. Now how do we tackle it? Well, let's do exactly what the problem asks us to do. Again, a brute force solution. So how do we do that? Well, the easiest thing to do here is first to just go through the divisors, right? And then we go through the numbers. And then for each divisor, we go through the numbers and just check how many are divisible by that divisor, right? So we just do, if number is divisible by d that we have here, then we want to increment the count. And now at this point, we want to check if this is the max so far, because remember, we want the one with the maximum divisibility score. Let's actually call this score just to make it, or divisibility score to make it super clear. So now we want to check, we would have the max divisibility score, right? And we want to also record the divisor with that max, right? So let's call it best divisor. And now what we are going to do is we will just check if the max divisibility score is smaller than this one, then that means we should replace it. So we should use this one. And since we are going to use it, we want to mark that the best divisor is now I. Right? It's now, sorry, D. It's the value. Now, there's the other case where they have the same score. In that case, we want to return the one with the minimum one. And so in that case, we can just here check if it's equal. Then we want to pick the smallest one. Because right now, divisors is not sorted. And so in that case, we want to just say that the best div is going to be the minimum between the two. Okay? And then at the end, we should return the value, which is the best div here. Okay, so let's run this. Looks like there is a problem here because we are returning the index and not the value. So we have the divisor score, and we go through the divisors, and then we increment. And then here we assign the div score, and then the best div is D. Now, if they are equal, then we want to set the best div to be the min between the two. So that should work. Now, except here I'm assigning initially to 0. I shouldn't. I should assign to one of the divisor values. So let's start with the one at position 0, which would make sense. We could choose to make 1 here, but for the sake of getting the maximum divisible score value, we want to include the one at position 0. So if we run this, it should work. It does. Let's submit. Okay, and that passes. Now, one thing to note here is that in terms of time complexity, this slope here is O of D, D being the number of divisors, the length of this divisors array, and then this here is O of N, N being the number of elements in this nums array, so it's D by N. So that's time. Now, in terms of space, we are only using these two variables. which are of one space, and so of one space. Now, one thing we can do to sort of shorten this a little bit is, now remember here, we want the smallest if they are equal, okay? And so if we sort these divisors and traverse it sorted, then we don't need this, because the first one we assign is going to be the smallest, and we will never update it because this is strictly smaller. And so that should work fine as well. There should be a good solution there. Okay, looks like there is one wrong answer, so let's just okay, so we have a problem here because max div score we assigned 0, but we don't know if that's the case, because maybe the divisor score would be 0 and we will not give an answer. And so we want this to be the smallest value possible so that this will always pass the first time. And so we'll just pick the smallest value possible, which is minus infinity here. You could also do 10 to the power of some big value. Okay, so let's submit. And this passes. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this problem. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye.